Alen Moradian, a name whispered in fear, a name synonymous with power. He was a kingpin of Sydney's underworld, a man who controlled empires from the shadows. His reach extended far and wide. From the bustling streets to the darkest corners, he was untouchable. Or so he thought. Moradian was a high-ranking member of the Comancheros, a notorious outlaw motorcycle gang. He was also a key player in the Commission, a powerful drug syndicate that controlled a significant portion of Sydney's drug trade. His influence was undeniable. He was feared and respected in equal measure. Moradian's power came from many sources. He had wealth accumulated through years of criminal activity. He had connections with corrupt officials and other powerful criminals. But most importantly, he had a reputation for violence, for ruthlessness, for getting things done. Alen Moradian's life was steeped in crime. From a young age, he was drawn to the underworld's allure, the excitement, the power, the money. He rose quickly through the ranks, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. He was involved in every facet of organised crime, drug trafficking, extortion, money laundering. His empire was vast, his profits were immense, and his methods were brutal. He was not afraid to use violence, to eliminate rivals, to silence anyone who dared to cross him. Moradian's ruthlessness was legendary. There were whispers of his involvement in countless crimes, murders that were never solved, disappearances that were never explained. He was a ghost, a phantom, a predator who always seemed to be one step ahead. Despite his power, Alen Moradian was not invincible. He had enemies, people who wanted him dead. And as his empire grew, so did the threats against him. The police were closing in. His rivals were circling. He was living on borrowed time. In 2022, Moradian received a chilling warning. The police informed him that his life was in danger, that there was a contract out for his assassination. The news shook him, planted a seed of paranoia in his mind. He became suspicious of everyone, even his closest allies. Moradian's paranoia was not unfounded. The underworld was a dangerous place, and he had made many enemies. He knew that anyone could be plotting against him, that any day could be his last. Section 4. Betrayal and Plots. As the threats against him intensified, Alen Moradian became increasingly isolated. He trusted no one, relied only on his instincts, and his instincts told him that danger lurked around every corner. He was right to be afraid. Unbeknownst to Moradian, a storm was brewing. A conspiracy that would seal his fate. His own trusted enforcer, Tariq Ayub, the Angel of Death, had turned against him. Ayub had been approached by Moradian's enemies, offered a fortune to betray his boss. Ayub, motivated by greed and ambition, agreed to the deal. He began feeding information to Moradian's rivals, his movements, his routines, his weaknesses. He was instrumental in orchestrating the plot against his former boss. Section 5. The killing in the car park. The morning of June 27th, 2023, dawned like any other. But for Alen Moradian, it would be his last. As he entered the underground car park of his Bondi Junction apartment building, he had no idea that death awaited him. 2 gunmen were lying in wait, hidden in the shadows. They had been following Moradian for weeks, studying his movements, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As Moradian got into his car, the gunmen emerged from their hiding place. Shots rang out, the air filled with the deafening sound of gunfire. Moradian never had a chance. He was riddled with bullets. His body slumped over the steering wheel. His reign of terror was over. Section 6. The aftermath and retribution. The assassination of Alen Moradian sent shockwaves through Sydney's underworld. It was a brazen attack, a message to anyone who dared to challenge the established order. The balance of power had shifted, and the streets were about to run red with blood. As news of Moradian's death spread, his rivals rejoiced. But their celebrations were short-lived. Moradian's loyalists vowed revenge. They would not let their leader's death go unpunished. A wave of violence erupted across Sydney. Drive-by shootings, firebombings, brutal reprisals. The police were overwhelmed. The city was gripped by fear. The underworld was at war. Section 7. The ethics of intervention. The killing of Alen Moradian raised uncomfortable questions about the role of law enforcement in combating organised crime. The police had been aware of the threat against Moradian's life, yet they had done nothing to prevent his murder. Some argued that the police had a duty to protect Moradian, even if he was a criminal. Others argued that Moradian's death was inevitable, that he had lived by the sword and died by the sword. The debate raged on. There were no easy answers. The police were caught in a difficult position, tasked with upholding the law while grappling with the moral complexities of a world where violence was often the only language spoken.